Good morning, everyone. It is Saturday, December 10th, 2022. We've made it to the end of the winter meetings. The meetings ended a few days ago. Teams started leaving. A lot happened. A lot can still happen. A lot is still left to be done for the Chicago Cubs, in my honest opinion. It's been a week. The way that we started this, we went from Monday morning, we're talking maybe Xander Bogaerts and Carlos Correa to now, here we are Saturday hoping that we're just going to get we're just going to hope that we get Dansby Swanson at this point. It's been a week. A lot happened. A lot of chaos happened out in San Diego. We're going to get into it. Let's go. What a week. The winter meetings were back, and boy, were they back. The market, I don't want to say the market crashed, but the market blew up in ways that we were not expecting. I don't think anyone was predicting some of these contracts. You take a look at, obviously, the big signings. Judge came out of, we all thought he was going back to the Yankees, right? With the money that was put aside by teams like the Giants, of course, the Padres were going to be in on him because the Padres are in on literally anybody under the sun. For the Yankees to go back out and get Aaron Judge, that's huge for them. That's huge for them because all of the reports about his legacy being more important to him than money, it speaks a lot about his character, and I respect the guy for doing it. Do I think that he should have went back to New York after the way that he was treated in the postseason after hitting 62 home runs? No, I don't think he should have went back. I think he's a good guy for doing it, but again, that's just my personal 2 cents. I don't think he should have went back because of how he was treated, and I don't think that Yankees fans understand the talent that they have in the guy. And it's one thing to be frustrated, but I don't want to hear anything from New York Yankees fans or bandwagoners when ask me for 7 years, how many Cubs games I went to at Wrigley Field or wherever. Ask me how many times I booed Jason Hayward. I publicly booed him. Ask me how many times Wrigley Field rang out in boos when Jason Hayward came up to bat from Cubs fans. Because I guarantee you it's a big old goose egg. We don't boo our players, no matter how frustrating they are. Jason Hayward spent the last 3 years on this team, averaging 200? I'm pretty sure that's what it was, if not a little bit less. And we supported him the whole way. That doesn't mean that we didn't criticize him. There's a difference between criticizing a player and booing them. Booing them is basically to their face. Criticizing it's something, we do online, we do on Twitter, we do in small groups when we're talking sports. Yeah, it's what fans do. That's something that fans do. It's one thing to talk back about Judge, not to his face. I don't know. I've never booed Jason Hayward. I would never plan on booing Jason Hayward. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're not talking Aaron Judge because we're fine with right field. I'm very content with Seiya Suzuki being our everyday right fielder. I'm still excited about the guy. He's electric. He's very fun to play. And we'll see what happens with that. I know the big news, earlier in the week was Cody Bellinger to the Cubs on the 1-year deal, $17.5 million. That was huge. Now let me backtrack on that a little bit. When I say it's huge, I mean that's big as its own thing. That cannot be the move. That cannot be the move. I know Jameson Taillon was also a great signing for the rotation. Those two moves alone are not going to do it. I know last year the two big moves that Jed Hoyer made before and after the lockout were Marcus Stroman the day before. I think it was hours before the lockout began. And then when the lockout ended last March, during spring training, they inked Seiya Suzuki. those were great for a year ago, because going into 2022, my expectations, I had no expectations for this team. You know, we had just getting rid of Rizzo, Bryant, Baez, Schwarber was still gone. Like, all these guys were gone. We didn't know what to expect. And to come out of 2022 with the roster that we had, and to have, it wasn't a lot more wins, but I think it was like 4 or 5 or even 6 more wins than we had in 2021. That's a win for me. That to me signals that we're ready to add on. You know, we've got the young guys down in the farm system that have elevated our farm system to top 10, I believe. If not top 10, that's a crime. Someone should be, whoever does the rankings should be in jail. But yeah, there's no reason not to have optimism going into 2023. The front office has said that we expect to compete. They told us that we expected to compete last year, and I think to some degree that they did. But going into 2023, I think our expectations are through the roof. And the reports that have come out that Crane Kenny has said Jed Hoyer has given the green light. Crane Kenny said that last year Jed Hoyer left Ricketts money on the table. I don't know, because then let's take a look at some of these contracts that are out, that have been coming out, and you just go, what in the hell is happening? Obviously, let's address the elephant in the room. We should not have to be in the shortstop market. We should not have to be competing with these teams in the first place for one of the top 4 shortstops, because Nico Horner is great. Nico Horner was a great shortstop last year, but when I look at Nico Horner, I want to use him the same way that we used Javi Baez and Addison Russell back in 2016, 2017, 2015. I want to use him like that. I want Nico Horner to move back to second base, because I think if he moves back to second base, he could end up being one of the top 5 second basemen in the league. He's great. He's great. But the guy that we got at second base cannot stay healthy. And I know Sox fans are going to relish in the fact that I'm about to say this, but the fact that the reason we are in the shortstop market is because of Nick Madrigal. Like, maybe that's not fair. He played great for a month last season, but he was hurt a lot of it. He was hurt. He had those lingering issues when we traded for him from the White Sox in the Craig Kimbrell deal. We knew this going into it. I think Cody Hoyer was the big fish in that trade, but Nick Madrigal was a great throw-in. I wouldn't even know if I'd call him a throw-in. But the whole reason we are in the shortstop market is because we cannot count on Nick Madrigal to stay healthy. So let's take a look at obviously the first big shortstop deal. Wow. The Philadelphia Phillies just continue to spend their stupid money. Dave Dombrowski, you know, how they snuck into the World Series. This is your blueprint, Jed. This is the blueprint. This team had no expectations outside of competing for a wild card in 2023, which they did. They competed for that wild card all the way to the very end, knocked the Cardinals out. I think they played the Braves next. I didn't follow it too much because I was already on the Bears bandwagoning on football season mode, because, I mean, let's be real, our season was over in July. And then they get to the World Series and they take that 2-1 lead on the Astros. It's unfortunate that they ended up losing that series, because I was rooting for the Phillies to win the World Series, but you got to respect the way that the Phillies are doing this thing. They're not afraid to spend the money. You know, they inked JT Realmuto to that contract extension. They brought in Bryce Harper on the mega 13-year, $330 million a few years ago, which, looking at that contract right now, that's a steal. Bryce Harper is getting paid $25 million a year. Yes, you're going to pay him for the next decade because it's going to be his last contract, but you can't tell me that if you take Bryce Harper off this Phillies team, that they're in the World Series. Tell me I'm wrong, and I will admit it. Tell me I'm wrong, because I don't think I am. I think it's worth it. I really do think it's worth it to sign one impact player to a contract like this. And then the Phillies go ahead, not even really needing a shortstop. They are already a World Series contender. They should be the National League favorites going into it. Maybe not anymore after this winter meetings, but Trey Turner coming to the Phillies, 11 years, $300 million. I don't think anyone was expecting Trey Turner to get 11 years. I think that we were looking between maybe 7, 8, 9, maybe even 10 years for Turner, but 11? Good for him. And you know what the sad part is? He's only making $27 million per year. Yes, it's a big contract, but it's team friendly in what they're spending in payroll every single season. So, and that started with Bryce Harper, right? Him getting paid $25 million a year. He's getting his payday, and he's also telling the front office, hey, I'm not going to demand the world from you like Carlos Correa did from the Twins last year with his $35.5 million or 35.1, whatever the number actually was. So you can go spend money on guys like Turner, Castellanos, Schwarber to bolster this team, and let's make a World Series run. And they did it. They did it. They didn't come out on top, but they got to the World Series, and they proved to the baseball what you can do when you sign guys to big deals with low AAV. Then this Trey Turner, I think it's set the market for shortstops, really all the players, because what we've seen so far is long contracts with low AAVs, which leading up to this winter meetings, I feel like the last few off seasons have been going up toward this. But I remember when it was short-term contracts, like 4 to 5 years, and guys were wanting to get paid like $4 billion a year. Maybe that's like guys like Verlander because the 2 years and he's getting paid 46 something a year, but he's up in his upper 30s, so this could be his last contract. Obviously the San Diego Padres coming out of nowhere, maybe not nowhere is the word, but coming out of left field to nab Xander Bogaerts at what felt like the 11th hour. I believe it was Wednesday night. Wow. The Padres, they see that the Cubs and the Red Sox, which I thought it was a 2-horse race. I thought that the Red Sox and Cubs were the 2-horse race for Xander Bogaerts going into the end of the winter meetings, because you've got the Red Sox wanting to bring their homegrown player back. But, I mean, they did what the Cubs did to our guys. They lowballed him several times on contract extensions. They jerked him around in the offseason. Then you got the Cubs. You've got guys like David Ross, John Lester, telling you, come to Chicago. Guys that you played with in Boston telling you, hey, forget the Red Sox, come to Chicago. I really thought that the Cubs were going to get Xander Bogaerts. I'm very surprised that they didn't. So seeing that, John Heyman, all these guys are saying that they're starting to mention the Padres and Xander Bogaerts, I go, uh-oh. Because the Padres, they missed out on Trey Turner. They got spurned by him. The Padres, they got spurned by Aaron Judge. They missed out on him. Aaron Judge flew all the way to San Diego to talk with the Padres before the Yankees owner said, yeah, give him an extra year and an extra $40 million. And Aaron Judge said, okay, I'm back. Excuse me. But yes, teams like the Padres, the Giants are sitting on a mountain of cash right now that they were prepared to give Aaron Judge. I'm worried about them in terms of Carlos Correa, because Brandon Crawford's getting old. But let's reel it back to the Padres real quick. This is insane, because everyone was saying Bogaerts is going to get like 7-8 years and $100 million less than what he got. We were thinking like 7 years, $180 million. And the Padres just blew the shortstop market open sky high. If you think that Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts getting 11 years is something, wait till Carlos Correa signs. Because now, I don't know if he's an option. He should be. There's no reason that the Cubs should be out on this guy. There is no reason to be out on Carlos Correa. He is your guy. Or if he's not, that's fine. But if he's not your guy, you need to pick up the phone and call Dansby Swanson and say, Dansby, you're our guy. We're going to pay you this much. We want to bring you to Chicago, and we want you to be a part of the next World Series Chicago Cubs team. It's that simple. Maybe it's not. I'm, of course, being a couch GM right now, saying it's easy. What do I know? I've never worked in a front office before. But, money talks in this market right now. You are going to have to mega overpay with these guys. You're going to have to. I do at this point think Carlos Correa could get something similar to what Fernando Tatis Jr. got from the San Diego Padres a year ago, a shortstop. So tell me why they need Xander Bogaerts. Whatever. The Padres just piss me off. I'm anti-Padres podcast. Sorry. That's me right now. That's me. I'm sorry. But Carlos Correa could see something in the 14 years. He could see something like Bryce Harper got with 13 years. You're going to have to up the years now, which sucks because we could have gotten this guy last year for, I think he only wanted between 7 and 9 years. So now you're going to pay more for Carlos Correa than you would have last year by tens of millions. I don't know. That sucks to see. And the sad part is, everyone's going, oh, just get Swanson. Just get Swanson. You can go get Swanson. He's going to cost you less than Carlos Correa, but by how much? Because no one was, like I said, no one was saying Bogaerts was going to get 11 years and an extra $100 million. What do you think Swanson's going to ask for? Huh? And I guarantee you, I'm telling you this right now, the Chicago Cubs are not the only team on Dansby Swanson. I know the report came out yesterday that the Braves and Swanson have not really talked contracts again since they offered him the contract extension during the season. So just because the Braves are out, that doesn't mean it's a 100% certain he's coming to the Cubs. We're just waiting for him and Jed to find the right number. Again, Carlos Correa is still out there, yes, but teams are also going to see this the exact same way that I'm telling you right now. Correa is going to be the more expensive option. Every team is going to think that they can get Swanson cheaper, which they probably will be able to. Carlos Correa is a better player than Dansby Swanson. Not by much, but it's true. The Giants are going to be in on Carlos Correa because they missed out on Aaron Judge. Like I said earlier, Brandon Crawford is getting older. They've got the money. They could give it to Carlos Correa and upgrade their infield and their lineup. The Padres are probably done with Bogaerts, so they'll be out on the shortstop market most likely. Philly's got their guy. The Boston Red Sox. They've now allowed Mookie Betts to leave, a homegrown player, in free agency. They've now allowed Xander Bogaerts, a homegrown talent, to leave via free agency. Rafael Devers is next season, which I know they keep saying that they're going to reach a contract. Yeah, okay, that's what you said about Xander Bogaerts leading up to him signing with the Padres. You got to do something if you're the Red Sox front office to satisfy the fan base because they've got to be pissed. I would be. I'd be extremely upset. I was talking to my buddy Nate. He's a Red Sox fan. He said that they're becoming irrelevant. They're becoming a joke. They are. I thought I was upset when we traded away Rizzo, Bryant, Baez. At least we got something for them. But this is maddening. I don't know. Jed is going to have to do something he is very uncomfortable with. He has proved that he is not comfortable giving guys long-term contracts after the Jason Hayward experience from 2015, 2016 offseason. It's the biggest contract the Cubs have given out is the Jason Hayward contract, 8-year, $184 million. You can't compete in the market for star players like that anymore. You can't. That day and age is gone. Look at the numbers. 11 years, 13 years, 14 years. You're going to have to ink one of these two guys to a contract to that length and eat it. You're just going to have to if you want them on your team. And we have said over and over and over again, Cubs fans everywhere on social media, if they fail to get one of the top 4 shortstops on the market this year, regardless of whatever they do, it is a failed offseason. You cannot put Carter Hawkins on Marquee Sports Network during the winter meetings and say, we are in on the shortstops. They're not even hiding it. You cannot put Jed Hoyer, your president of baseball operations, on your media network and say, we are going to go after the shortstops. You can't put your 2 top guys on air admitting that they're in and then miss. You cannot afford to miss on one of these guys. If that means giving up the Correa search to focus on Swanson and landing Swanson, I'm fine with that. I am 100% comfortable going into 2023 as a Chicago Cubs fan with Nico Horner at second, Dansby Swanson at shortstop, and Cody Bellinger in center field. You've shored up your middle of the field defense. I'm fine with that. I really, really am because they will make other moves. They'll be able to make other moves once you sign one of the top guys on the market. You have signaled to baseball that the Cubs are back. The Cubs are like Scott Boras said, the tom-tom drum is beating again. Prove it. Prove it. Cubs fans deserve this. You can't win one World Series in 108 years. It's been 110 plus now. You can't just win one. This is a top 3 market in baseball, the city of Chicago. Spend the money. Wrigleyville is a cash cow. What you make at Wrigley Field in a day is a cash cow. And of course, the pressure is on even more because of what the St. Louis Cardinals did. They did exactly what they did back after the Cubs won the World Series in 2016 when they signed Dexter Fowler to the 5-year deal. They have found their replacement for Yadier Molina. This is the elephant in the room. They found their replacement for Yadier Molina in Wilson Contreras. St. Louis Cardinals signed into a 5-year, $87.5 million contract. I have conflicting thoughts on this. Obviously, first off, when they did not trade him at the trade deadline, I thought maybe there was a sliver of hope that we were going to be serious about bringing Wilson Contreras back to the team on a legitimate contract extension. And when the only effort made to bring this guy back was a qualifying offer, maybe they know something that I don't. Maybe they know something that the fans don't about his performance, the player. I don't know. But Wilson Contreras was a fan favorite. The Cubs fans loved him. It sucks. It's really sad to see him go. It's really sad to see him go because he's been a part of the organization for 14 years. I remember his debut on Father's Day 2016, hitting a home run his first at bat like it was yesterday. Some of my favorite gifs to use on Twitter are Wilson Contreras just being a badass. So it's sad, but I have all these memories of Wilson Contreras, all these fun memories, and then for him to come out yesterday and admit in his press conference that while he was on the injured list, watching Albert Pujols chase 700 home runs, that he dreamed of playing for the St. Louis Cardinals because of a rich history and tradition and celebration or whatever. Like, that's fine. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that the Cardinals don't have a rich tradition of winning, success, you name it. The Cardinals are a winning organization. They are. That's a fact. That's a fact. The Cardinals are a winning organization. Fact. But do not, for one instant, because you're pissed off at Jed Hoyer, claim that take shots at the Cubs organization that there's no tradition or celebration. That's crap. And because you're mad at Jed Hoyer, I don't care if that was your intent, fine. But you indirectly, in my opinion, took a pot shot at the fans who have supported you your entire time in this organization. You got two standing ovations from Wrigley Field. One before the trade deadline in your last game at Wrigley, because we all thought you were going to get traded. Two, the last home game at Wrigley Field, because we thought this could be it with this guy, and we love this guy. So you got 2 standing ovations at Wrigley Field this year. Cubs fans have been going to battle for you on Twitter. Granted, nobody in front office cares about what fans say on Twitter, but everywhere it was during the season, extend Wilson. That's my backstop. Cubs fans love this guy. So for you to turn around and bash the tradition and celebration that we have, Wilson Contreras will never hear this, but the night the Cubs won the World Series, I cried. Not because it was an amazing experience or because it finally happened, but because my dad's dad, my grandpa, he lived his entire life as a diehard Cubs fan, and he never got to see the Cubs win a World Series. So to be able to experience that and think of him in those times, I'm not the only one that had a loved one that didn't get to see the Cubs win the World Series. So this means a lot to a lot of Cubs fans. Do not attack that. Do not attack that. You can be mad at the front office. You can be mad at the organization, but do not attack that. I'm sorry. That rubbed me the wrong way. But, I'm glad he got paid. I'm glad he got paid what he deserved. I thought he deserved. The length of the contract is a little long for me. I would have been happy. If the Cardinals would have got him at 2 to 3 years, I'd be more upset because I think we could have done that no problem. But 5 years is a little long. He's already 30 years old. And if they're playing, I think that using Wilson Contreras the way that the Astros said that they were going to use him in left field and at DH, I think Wilson Contreras' offense is a lot more valuable than his defense. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I eat my words this year because he's gonna stick it to us every chance he gets. That's just the player Wilson Contreras was. He was fun and electric. We loved it when he did it to the Brewers. We loved it. He's gonna do it to us. He's gonna do it to the Cubs every time we play the St. Louis Cardinals. Wilson Contreras, it's going to be Wilson Contreras' World Series because he is going to stick it to the organization every single chance he gets. Kind of moving out of the winter meetings since they are over. Let's talk about what comes next for the Cubs. So, what does it mean to be a core? You know, we've heard this term several times over the last 7 years. Core. The core is coming. There's a new core. We're going to build a new core. What does that mean? What does that mean? I don't know if I'd call what's coming next a core at all, because you look at what happened in 2015 going into 2016. You looked at when all these guys came up that we remember as our heroes from that World Series team. Chris Bryant made his debut in April of 2015. Addison Russell made his debut in April of 2015. Javi Baez made his debut in August of 2014. Those three guys right there, I know that the winter months are off-season, but in terms of playing baseball, it's 2 months apart. You got August, then September. Cubs obviously didn't play October baseball in 2014. And then 2015, April. Those guys are coming up. 2 months of baseball apart. And then, of course, Wilson Contreras coming up in 2016. All of these guys came up at just the right time. They all clicked at the same time. Everything went right. Everything that the Chicago Cubs needed to go down in order for them to have that World Series trophy at the end of that rainy night in Cleveland in November of 2016, they all happened. Every single little thing happened. Trying to do it again is like asking for lightning to strike twice. You're trying to catch lightning in a bottle. Let me ask you, how often does it work? How often does it work? Because we're already seeing the injury bug start to rear its ugly head in the minors. Brendan Davis was supposed to be a big part of the 2022 team down the stretch. He was probably going to be a late summer, fall call-up. Injured. He hurt his back. And from what I've heard, it's comebackable, but it's not great. Pete Crow Armstrong, he's a whole other season away. According to MLB Pipeline, he's not going to come up till 2024. Kevin Alcantara has taken off in the minor leagues. There's another guy that's not expected to come up till 2024. Alexander Canario was looking to, again, probably be a late fall call-up. He was probably going to join the team early this spring. I don't know if that's going to happen now because he's got a major injury. Miguel Amaya, of course, this is the guy that they were saying was eventually going to be the successor to Wilson Contreras. He was dealing with an injury. So it's like you see all these guys. And Ed Howard, again, injury. Like all of your top guys that you were going to be counting on. This is like saying going into the 2015 season, Chris Bryant suffered a big injury late in 2014. So his arrival was probably going to be delayed. Addison Russell could have been another one of those guys. Wilson Contreras. What happens if Wilson Contreras gets hurt prior to coming up in June 2016? How does that alter everything? I don't know. But the only guy that we might see at Wrigley Field this summer is Matt Mervis. That's it. That's the only one I'm expecting. And he's gonna be getting some time at first base since first base is just a black hole right now. Obviously, we haven't been able to solidly fill it since Anthony Rizzo left. And you look at the season Anthony Rizzo just had in New York, and you go, wow, way to go, Jed. I don't know. But what I'm trying to say here is you can't do this without star players. You need a star player. That's the way baseball goes now. Again, throwing it back to the beginning of the episode, Philadelphia Phillies, Bryce Harper. You need a star player. Look what the Cubs did on 2016. Yes, all those young guys were on that team. Guess who was also on that team? John Lester, big name free agent. Ben Zobrist, big name free agent. John Lackey, big name free agent. Jason Hayward, big name free agent. Didn't pan out, but he was a big name free agent. All these guys came to the Cubs via free agency, and remember, from that team. The 2006 team, all the prospects were ready at about the same time. That helps a lot when you're able to have that happen. But you're seeing just on the other side of town what happens when your prospects, you bank on prospects alone, and they get hurt. Look where the White Sox are. They were expected to be in that World Series last year. Didn't even make the playoffs. You cannot mess this up, Jed Hoyer. I'm sorry, but you can't mess this up. I don't think you will. I still think you're going to get good players, but you got to get one of the top guys. You got to. So with that, these are some of the guys that I think that the Cubs could add. They're not going to get all of them. They might not even get any of them at this point. But these are guys I think that the Cubs could add before spring training starts that could make this Cubs team in 2023 a wild card threat, because the NL Central is winnable. Obviously, I think the only threat that got better is the St. Louis Cardinals with the Wilson Contreras signing. The Brewers did not get better. The Pirates did not get better. The Reds did not get better. The Cardinals got a little bit better. The Cubs should be able to outspend these teams by millions upon millions of dollars. And right now, we're just not acting that way. So, obviously, the first name that I think needs to be signed, and I think the first name that will be signed, is going to be Dansby Swanson. I think that the Cubs could get him on the 10-year. It's going to have to be a double-digit year. I'm not saying you have to give the guy 11 years, but I think that you could give Dansby Swanson 10 years, $260 million, because, again, you're going to have to overpay him. The Padres overpaid Bogarts. You can't undersell Dansby Swanson because you can be like, well, Bogarts just got $280. I think you could turn around, give Dansby Swanson $260 over 10 years, pay him $26 million a year. I wrote up this prediction the same way the Philadelphia Phillies have been operating with their front office. Long-term contract, smaller AAV, so you can make room on your yearly payroll to sign more impactful players. But Dansby Swanson, like I said, I'm fine with him being at shortstop, Nico at second, and Cody Bellinger out in center field, ensuring up the middle of the field. A little bit of a name that got overlooked after Jose Abreu signed with the Astros, but I would love to see Trey Mancini get signed to the Chicago Cubs. I don't know if Matt Mervis is going to be an Anthony Rizzo-esque player. I think he's good. I think he mashed in the minors last season, especially down the stretch. Matt Mervis could be exciting, but I don't think he's ready to be the everyday first baseman. That's why I think you go get a guy like Trey Mancini. You sign him to a 3-year deal just until Matt Mervis grows into what he could be. Matt Mervis turns into a stud. This season, boom, you've got Trey Mancini for 2 more seasons. There's your DH. The DH is a thing in the National League now. So this would not be a waste of a signing. This would not be a waste of money. $17 million a year is a deal. That's just me. The next player I think the Cubs could benefit from signing is a little bit of a dark horse. I don't know if anybody is reporting him or even talking about him right now. He's kind of had a bounce. He's had an up and down career. Obviously good with the Athletics. Not so great after getting traded to the Padres, but that's just because it's the Padres. Sean Manaea. He is a homegrown kid. He's from Northwest Indiana. Went to school at Andrean High School. From where I lived, I could get to Andrean High School back home about 10 minutes. He's from the area. He's from the region. He knows Chicago. I think it would be worth a risk to bring him in on an $11 million a year. Why not? The pitching staff needs help. I know you've got young guys coming, but let's say one of them doesn't pan out. 1 or 2 of them don't pan out. You got to have something to go to. Maybe Sean Manaea coming back to Chicagoland, maybe a little bit closer to home. That helps him get back to what he was with the Athletics. I don't know, but I think it's at least worth taking a look at. Again, all these guys, I think it's just worth taking a look at because why not? Why not? Even if you're not comfortable doing 3 years, get him 1 year, $11 million. Give him a prove-it deal. But pitching wins. Pitching wins. That's why the Phillies aren't World Series champs. Pitching wins. Kodai Senga, obviously a lot of teams are in on him right now. The Mets are in on him. The Giants are in on him. The Red Sox are in on him. Cubs are in on him. Yankees are probably in on him. Hell, the Padres. Of course, the Padres are in on him. But I think if you go ahead and pitch out the 4-year, $60 million, give him 15, it's close to what you're paying Seiya Suzuki. Seiya Suzuki's your guy right there. You let him be your recruiter to Senga. But Kodai Senga comes in and he bolsters the rotation immediately. I would try to get Senga before I try to get Sean Manaea. But I think you take a look at some of the pitchers. If you miss on the Carlos Rodons of the world, the Kodai Sengas of the world, then you start looking at guys at Sean Manaea. Because there are decent starters on the market that you can just plug in on prove-it deals. A fan favorite I'd love to see come back is Andrew Chafin, no longer with the Tigers. I think you give him 2 years, $12 million. Give him $6 million a year. He loved his time in Chicago, from what I've heard. He was fun, the sheriff with the mustache. Like, bring him back. We loved him. He's great. Why not? We need bullpen help. You can never have too many bullpen help. You can never have too much bullpen help. Christian Vasquez is the guy that's been linked as the catcher for the Cubs since it was made evident that Wilson Contreras was not coming back. You could make a trade for a guy like Sean Murphy, no doubt about that. But why give up prospects if you don't have to? Why give up prospects when you can go get a guy like Christian Vasquez for 3 years, $20 million, give him $6.7 million a year? Why not? Teams that are winning the World Series are winning with defensive first catchers. Christian Vasquez from the Astros. Look how many years the Astros have been in a World Series. Or at least in the ALCS, nonetheless. Here's a formula. There's a formula. I'd love to have Christian Vasquez with the Cubs. Christian Vasquez and Yan Gomes. That's a great tandem defensive-wise. Of course, you can't do that if you don't replace Wilson Contreras' offense with impactful bats like a Dansby Swanson, like a Trey Mancini, like a Carlos Correa. Next, I've got Sean Newcomb. He was with the Cubs last year. He made less than $1 million. Maybe you bring him back on a 1-year deal. He wasn't horrible. Bring him back on a 1-year deal. Give him $1 million or less. Call it a day. Just to have a bullpen spot. Unless you're confident some of these young guys can come up and contribute right now. And then an interesting one that came out, Dominic Smith. I think it was John Heyman reported that the Cubs were exploring a look at Dominic Smith, and we were all like, okay, but why? Why? And, it's not horrible, I don't think. He's only 27 years old. Maybe he could turn it around in a different city. New York is not for everybody. Maybe he comes to Chicago because we're not going to boo him. We're not going to run him out of town. Maybe a minor league deal like the Los Angeles Dodgers just gave to Jason Hayward with an invite to Major League Camp just to get a look at the guy. Just get a look at the guy. What's the hurt in that? There's no hurt. $3 million to that. To Jed and Tom Ricketts, that should be pocket change. All of those guys being added brings the free agency total, not including Bellinger or Tyon. It's an additional $94.7 million under the payroll. I don't know I should have looked up what the current payroll was. We can talk about that more in the next episode. But again, big market teams should be spending big market money. And if you want to make this team better, and if you want to potentially be in that wild card race next year, you want to be the Philadelphia Phillies of 2023, you got to spend money to do it. Of course, maybe you can take some of these relievers out like Chafin and Newcomb if guys like Thompson, Sampson, Wisniewski, Alzolay, maybe they can step in and be full-time bullpen relief help in 2023. Maybe they could take a couple rotation spots. Who knows? We'll get more into that in the coming offseason, but it was a crazy week of the winter meetings. The market has been blown wide open. The door is blown open. It's going to be exciting. I think things are going to start to slow down now that not everybody's in San Diego. So obviously, if the Cubs make a big signing like Swanson or Correa, we're going to have an emergency podcast to talk about it. If not, we will be having frequently episodes dropping on Into the Ivy, both on Facebook and on Twitter. Follow us at Into the Ivy. Into _the_Ivy 23. we are going to be having a little bit more of a presence on Twitter and on Facebook. Hopefully, that's the goal. We're trying to get back into it. We're trying to revitalize the pod. Cubs baseball is getting exciting again. It's a great time. Maybe we'll be having Ryan come back, have Reese come back. Maybe we'll have a few more special guests in the near future, have some more names pop up on screen from time to time, talk to other fan bases, see what they think about the Cubs, what they think about their own team, and get you some perspective into the worlds of other MLB markets. But until then, go Cubs, baby. Go Cubs.